The cameras hummed to life inside Studio 6A, the energy sharp and expectant as the audience filled the space with applause. Today, with Craig Melvin, was running right on schedule, the lighting crew tweaking the final amber tones that made the morning glow just right for national television. Craig, sitting poised behind the low coffee table, flashed his well-practiced grin toward the audience. His charisma filled the air like polished brass, steady, confident, untouchable. But even before Tom Hardy walked in, there was a hum beneath the surface. Everyone felt it, the crew, the interns, even the stage manager with her headset pressed tight against her ear. Hardy wasn't just another celebrity guest. He was a man who brought his own gravity wherever he went. The show's producer whispered to Craig during the commercial countdown, "Remember, steer clear of the Venom 3 drama until he brings it up himself. Keep it light." Craig nodded, though part of him liked living close to that edge. "Got it," he said, tapping his notes. But when Tom Hardy strode onto the set, something in Craig's instinct shifted. The audience erupted with excitement, cheers, whistles, a wave of energy that broke through the studio calm. Tom gave a small, courteous nod, lifting a hand briefly in acknowledgement, but his demeanor stayed grounded. He wasn't the type to soak up adoration. He was the type to command silence just by existing in it. He was dressed simply. Black jeans, a weathered leather jacket. His boots still dusted faintly with the grit of New York streets. His beard was trimmed but scruffy enough to remind everyone he didn't care for Hollywood polish. His eyes, though, were the thing. Sharp and guarded, they carried a weight that unsettled even the most confident interviewer. Craig rose from his seat, hand extended. "Tom Hardy, everybody!" The applause rose again. The handshake was brief but firm. Tom sat down, crossing one leg casually over the other, glancing around the set as if evaluating it for weakness. Craig began, his tone bright and easy. "Tom, it's good to see you. You've been busy lately, new projects, new training, and another blockbuster on the horizon. How do you even find the time to breathe?" Tom cracked the faintest smirk. "I don't," he said dryly. "Breathing's overrated." The audience laughed, the tension easing just a touch. Craig smiled wider, sensing he had an opening. "I think that's the most Tom Hardy answer you could have given. But seriously, man, you've been in everything lately. And now this new project, the one you produced yourself, what drew you to it?" Tom's posture softened a little as he spoke about his film. He talked about storytelling, about grit, about authenticity, about why he wanted to make movies that meant something instead of following formula. His words weren't polished sound bites. They were blunt, unfiltered, honest. It was that honesty that drew audiences to him, and also the very thing that often got him in trouble. Craig, flipping through his cue cards, decided to dig a little deeper. "You've said before that you hate the Hollywood machine, that you don't play the game. But doesn't that make it harder to do what you want to do?" Tom tilted his head slightly, studying Craig's tone. "Harder, maybe," he said slowly. "But at least it's real. I'd rather fight for something real than smile through something fake." The audience clapped softly, sensing the conviction behind his words. Craig chuckled. "I respect that. But sometimes the headlines don't exactly match the story, right? There's this idea out there, maybe unfairly, that you can be, well, a little intense on set. Hard to work with even." The words lingered in the air like static. A small flicker passed across Tom's face. Not anger yet, but a subtle tightening around the eyes. He didn't answer right away. The audience leaned forward, waiting. "You're asking if I'm difficult?" he said finally, voice low. Craig raised his palms. "Not me personally. Just something that's been said." Tom cut him off gently but firmly. "Yeah, said. People say a lot of things. Doesn't mean they're true." Craig nodded, trying to maintain his rhythm, but Tom's stare had a weight that made conversation feel like walking on cracked ice. "Fair point," Craig said, laughing lightly. "But there are stories. Directors talking about creative clashes, walkouts. I mean, that's—" Tom leaned forward suddenly, his elbows on his knees, voice dropping to a quiet, dangerous calm. "You ever been in a situation where everyone around you's pretending? Saying what they're told to say, doing what's easy instead of what's right?" Craig hesitated. "Sure, but—" That's what most film sets are, Tom continued. And I don't play that game. If I see something wrong, I'll call it out. Doesn't make me difficult, makes me awake. The silence that followed was electric. Craig tried to pivot with a nervous laugh. Awake's good. Awake keeps things interesting. Tom's lips curved into a small smile. Interesting's one word for it. Craig looked to the control booth for reassurance, then glanced back at Tom, his instincts whispering that maybe he should change the subject. But the host in him couldn't resist pushing the envelope just a little further. You've been in the business long enough to know how this works. When you have that kind of reputation, even if it's not fair, it follows you. Don't you ever wish you could smooth things out a little? Play nice? The studio hallways buzzed like a disturbed hive. Assistants rushed past with clipboards, producers barked into headsets, and security guards exchanged uneasy glances near the exit. It wasn't every day a guest walked off today with Craig Melvin, and certainly not someone like Tom Hardy. The audience was still murmuring inside, trying to make sense of what they'd just witnessed. Some said he'd been provoked. Others whispered that he'd overreacted. But everyone agreed on one thing. It was unforgettable television. Backstage, the air was heavy with adrenaline and confusion. Craig Melvin stood near the control booth, his microphone still clipped to his shirt. He was calm on the surface, but his pulse raced. "Did we get all that?" he asked a stage manager. "Every second," she replied, not looking up from her monitor. He was still mic'd until the end. "Clean audio, 3 camera angles. Social's going to light up in 10 minutes. Craig exhaled through his nose and rubbed the bridge of his forehead. "Yeah," he muttered, half to himself. "That's what I'm afraid of." Down the hall, Tom Hardy moved with a deliberate, simmering focus, neither rushing nor lingering. His publicist, a small woman with an air of practiced crisis control, kept pace beside him. "Tom," she began carefully, "you know they're going to spin this however they want. The internet's going to eat it alive. Maybe if we—" He stopped walking and turned toward her, his expression calm but unreadable. "They can spin it however they like," he said quietly. "I'm not apologizing for honesty." She hesitated, adjusting her notepad. "I'm not saying you should. But walking out on a live show, there's a way this plays publicly. You know how fast people twist things." Tom's eyes flicked down the corridor, toward the glowing red-on-air signs still pulsing above the studio doors. "Let them," he said, the faintest trace of weariness in his tone. "They'll say I lost it. But I didn't. I just stopped playing along." Inside the studio, Craig's producer, Dan, was already juggling phone calls. "No, we're not cutting the segment," he told one executive on the line. "It's too big. The clip's gold. People will be talking about it all week." Craig turned sharply toward him. "You can't just throw that up online. He'll see it as exploitation." Dan covered the mic with his hand. "Craig, this is live TV. It happened. We can't erase it." Craig sighed, pacing near the monitors that replayed Hardy's exit in an endless loop. Watching it back, he could see what the audience saw. The tension building in real time, the way Hardy's tone grew quieter as his words grew sharper. There was no shouting, no theatrics, just raw intensity. And when he finally stood up and walked off, it wasn't rage, it was conviction. In the control room, someone whispered, "It's already on Twitter." Craig turned. "What?" "Clips, multiple angles. The audience recorded it on their phones. It's everywhere." Craig's heart sank. The words "Tom Hardy storms off Today Show" were already trending. Within minutes, news outlets would be dissecting every line. The producers were whispering, the PR team was on damage control, and yet Craig couldn't shake the image of Hardy's calm defiance. He wasn't sure if he admired it or resented it. Meanwhile, Hardy had reached the private exit. A few security guards stood near the door, uncertain whether to intervene. One of them, a young man clearly starstruck, stepped forward hesitantly. "Mr. Hardy, sir, I just wanted to say, that was incredible." Tom gave a faint nod, his tone almost kind. "Thanks, mate. Wasn't trying to be." Outside, the city noise wrapped around him, a low hum of traffic, voices, and flashing cameras. Paparazzi had already gathered, lenses glinting under the streetlights. His publicist tensed, ready to shield him, but Hardy simply squared his shoulders and walked forward. The reporters surged like a wave. "Tom, what happened in there? Did Craig Melvin insult you? Are you walking off all interviews now? Do you regret it?" He didn't break stride. "No regrets," he said simply, his voice steady and unhurried. "Not every conversation deserves to keep going."